We're live. Hey, Dr. Chris, how are you today?
I'm great. Hi, Dr. Laurie. Good to see you. It's been a little while.
It has been a second. We were traveling and doing some things. Oh, now we got some folks joining. Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Oh, wow, we're already getting hearts. That's the best. What a great way to start the Hey, and this is
Yeah.
Valentine's month.
Yeah.
We should definitely share wheelchair the love.
Welcome, everyone. There
Hey,
we
look,
go.
see, yours does that fancy thing. I can't, as hard as I try.
Yeah.
Anyway, giving everyone a chance to join. Today, I thought we could talk about your article about where heart disease really starts, which is really interesting way to think about it. And so what we're going to be speaking about is the vascular system, right? And so blood vessels. And this is not I mean, I'm a family practice doctor, you're integrative medicine, trauma, but have you ever said, "How's your blood vessels today?" We might we might check your blood pressure, which talks about, blood vessel, you know, the stress in the blood vessels, but we talk more about what's the pressure doing to the heart or the kidneys, but we never talk about the blood vessels themselves as an entity that we should be paying attention to. So I thought it was a really cool thing that you did and how you spoke about it. So can you just describe to us basically the basics of, a blood vessel and the vasculature and why we should be actually having this conversation?
Yeah. Thank you. So, actually, there's a saying that you're only as old as your endothelium are. So,
Mm.
it's the endothelium is the inner lining of your blood vessels, and if they age faster than you are aging, then that's gonna affect how fast you age internally. Um, but it's so important because your vasculature is your lifeline. Like that is how you get blood and oxygen and nutrients to every cell of the body, no matter where it is, whether that's the brain, whether that's the heart, the lungs, the immune system. Like it needs your vasculature to do that. The kidneys, and so the vasculature can be damaged, and we can talk about that. It can become less elastic. As we age, it does become less elastic unless we actively counter that process. So, I actually think it is important to talk about our vasculature, and maybe that's the question we should be having with people. Um,
Right.
is how vascular is.
And so I guess the first step was, okay, so we understand it's important, it's delivering nutrients, it's removing toxins, everything if you deprive your heart of blood, obviously you're having a heart attack, then brain's a stroke. People don't think about their gut health though too, right? So motility issues, for example,
Mhm.
if you have someone with type 2 diabetes, they have things like where basically the stomach doesn't empty as well. You can actually have where the gut actually starts to die because it's been cut off. You might have pain with walking because the blood vessels to the muscles are being deprived. You will have neuropathy because those little tiny blood vessels aren't feeding the nerves. So much in deterioration of your disc. I mean, that is a more of an osmosis type of thing, but it still has to be delivered to vasculature near that area. So it's just a really interesting thing to think about for people. They're like, wow, I wonder if this is one of my a blood vessel issue. So when we start there, we'll get to what we should be doing on a daily basis to support our endothelial health and our blood vessel health. But what are some of the greater things that actually damage it? So what are those things that you speak of that we need to be thinking about on the onset that we like, oh wow, that's damaging. I should probably think about how can I
Mhm.
improve that piece?
Mhm. So and it's called the endothelial lining of your blood vessel, and that lining, it's one cell thick, and it's very sensitive to things. So it is not just a cell layer; it actually is an endocrine system where it's secreting things like nitric oxide to dilate and relax it. So you want to keep that layer super healthy, so it does its job. So it can help dilate the blood vessel. It can move nutrients through and toxins and waste through, and it does its job properly. And so things that can damage that inner layer are one of the big ones and this could be the reason that we finally stopped wanting it, but is sugar. So sugar can, especially in higher amounts, if you have just a real small amount with a high fiber meal, but getting the blood sugar spikes, the insulin spikes can actually really is very damaging to the blood vessel. So you want to really try to keep your meals flatter, just minor spikes without those big spikes. That's very damaging. High salt amounts can be damaging to the blood vessel lining. Um, Actually, and here's an interesting one that I think of with salt a little bit, but not exercising is actually very damaging because then as we age, the blood vessel just gets stiffer and the
Mm,
collagen starts to kind of fall apart a little bit. Elastin, the proportion of the collagen elastin in it changes. And so it actually gets stiffer if we're not exercising. So that is something that's damaging to it. And then if we have significant oxidative stress, so if we're breathing in a lot of polluted air, that's oxidative stress, which can actually damage the endothelium, which is one of the reasons when people live in polluted areas and say they go running in a polluted area, they have increased risk of having a heart attack because that pollution contributes to oxidative stress, which can actually damage the endothelium. So, not like a quick exposure. So, don't panic if you're exposed quickly, but if you're long term exposed, you want to be a little bit careful with the quality of the air that you breathe in. Food can. So, if you're not eating clean, healthy, whole foods like processed foods, those types of things. And I think it's more because it's one, spiking blood sugar, and two, oxidative stress also on the blood vessel lining. So those things can be damaging. High amounts of alcohol can be damaging to the blood vessel lining. And actually, interestingly, stress can be damaging. And part of the reason is the blood vessels are regulated by nerves and hormones, like uh, uh, factors like chemokines and different factors in the blood. And so stress itself can make the blood vessel more rigid and less able to be flexible. And over time, chronically, that can start breaking down and damaging the tissue. So you can see a lot of things. And even poor sleep seems to affect our blood vessels. And maybe again, that's because it's lowering the stress hormones and helping to reset things, which the endothelial lining there is very sensitive to that.
because there is even, the broken heart syndrome, right? So, like, someone has a severe stress, like, they lost a loved one or something, um, what is it called? Takoto something. Do you know what
Taki, so,
Takotsubo?
yeah.
Takotsubo? Something like that?
Uh-huh.
Where literally you're having a problem because the stress, and it causes, literally like a heart attack. Now, I'm probably sure there's some predisposing
Well,
things
that's a vagal tone too, due to that stress, and so it actually, leads to acute heart failure. So
or
from so much, um, from high level of stress affecting the heart directly. Yeah. So it affects the blood vessels as well. We're very sensitive to these things. So
wow.
and then I will say there are genetic things as well. So some people are born with stiffer blood vessels, or
Hmm.
they produce less nitric oxide at baseline,
Yeah.
or they have the type of cholesterol that damages that endothelial. So we're not all starting with the same blood vessels in the first place. So that plays a role too, what your baseline is, and then from there, as we age, and if we don't take care of our blood vessels, then we can. Oh, and smoke, of course. Again, oxidative stress can damage the
Okay,
lining.
so we have a variety of things that can damage it. Many of these are lifestyle, I'd say, except for, of course, an acute stress event, but we can also determine how we handle stress. So there's the genetics piece, and that may, like you mentioned in your article, explain why some individuals, they live identical lives, let's say, but one may, actually end up with some issues, heart disease, versus someone else who doesn't. So that's an interesting way to look at it as well. And in my book, there's no amount of healthy alcohol or smoking or secondhand smoke too, right? If someone lives with a smoker, you may not be smoking. You can still get that oxidative stress. Could you go into a little bit about explaining just exactly what oxidative stress means? Like, what does that mean exactly?
Mhm. So oxidative stress is it's a result of these things like, let's say, smoke, for example, um, and it produces little chemicals that are actually going to damage it. And this is where we think of antioxidants, which block the oxidation. So when it gets oxidized, the oxygen becomes from O2 to O3, and that actually damages the lining. It's like spiky and can damage the lining of it, is how I think of it on a cellular level. And so anything, and even your body produces oxidative stress as a waste, but we have ways to deal with it. And a little bit of oxidative stress isn't necessarily bad. It's when we overdo it that it can be damaging to the body. So we need that little bit to help clean up the body, actually. But what happens is the modern American world, or I guess world that we live in, is filled with things like polluted air, or or someone smoking near you, or foods that are going to contribute to oxidative stress in your body, and so it's excess, and this is what's going to damage it. So, and it's very real. And some people, there is actually genetics for it, where some people don't have to handle oxidative stress as well as others. So that just means they need more things like antioxidants, like vitamin C is just one example of an antioxidant, and which is one reason I like people to be eating fresh fruits and vegetables like throughout the day, because it gives you a little bit of antioxidants to put out that oxidative stress uh, throughout the day. So if you're exposed to little exposures, and in fact, vitamin C has been shown to protect the endothelium from the oxidative stress. So it's one of the things we use for people who have endothelial damage, is vitamin C, extra vitamin C for them.
which you can get in copious amounts in your plant foods.
Right.
Um, and so now that we kind of talked about what can be damaging, what are the, top 3 or 5 habits someone can actually do to improve the endothelium? So let's say that we're obviously adults now. We're not just born into the world currently. It's like, oh man, I wish I could have known this at birth. It's like we're going to be practicing healthy endothelial, practices as you grow up. Our parents would say, but what can we do now? And to really just, halt the fire, if not, even reverse it.
Mhm. Well, I would say one thing that I do actually recommend is kind of knowing your baseline. Find out where you are right now. So, because we're not all going to be the same. And
Mhm.
so, know what your blood pressure is, because that's going to affect it. Know where your lipids are, because if your lipids, if you have really high LDL or ApoB, or LP Lillet, these are some of the atherogenic parts of the lipids, which are going to damage the endothelium. So know that. Know what your CRP, that's your inflammatory marker, and inflammation directly damages the endothelium. Like, we actually think atherosclerosis and heart disease is an inflammatory and immune mediated thing. And so knowing your inflammatory marker is super important. Knowing your A1C and your fasting sugar and your fasting insulin is going to give you a baseline of if this is secretly, without even knowing it, damaging your endothelium. So I would kind of get a baseline, and then you can even image. I love to do ultrasound of the CINT, the carotid intermediate thickness, and we look at the endothelium and the thickness. Or you can do scanning and advanced imaging. And so you can actually get a baseline for where you are. And so and some people are going to find that even though they've been living healthy, they actually have some endothelial damage, and other people may not. So again, we find different things in different people, which is why I do recommend people look for their baseline, because we can improve it, we can reverse things, we can treat it if we know. And some habits, just our habits and our lifestyle, isn't enough for everyone. So it is enough for some people, but it's not enough for everyone. And honestly, that's a genetic thing, if you ask me. And there is just some people that need a little more intervention. So that's my first step. And then my second step is we all need to develop good habits. And so that's the next thing. And so first, I would love to start with exercise. Exercise is one of the best things you can do for your endothelium and your blood vessels. And I would say really just walking is fabulous for blood vessels. Really, it's fabulous for blood vessels. So a good walk is really going to go a long way for you. And then there is data, though, that adding resistance training actually adds to that on top of it. So resistance training is going to be helpful. And if you don't do resistance training, maybe even just starting with 2 days a week, you will see some benefits from that. So wherever you are doing resistance training with a good walk or whatever you do things like high intensity workout help? Yes. But for some of the larger vessels, they found that walking actually helped relax them a little bit better than the high intensity, although all of it is going to be good. And then they showed significantly that things like yoga and stretching actually add the vagal tone to it, and that significantly even improved it further for people who had less elastic blood vessels, and they were getting higher blood pressure as they were aging. And they found that adding things like walking and the resistance training, and then when they added something like yoga or tai chi or some sort of relaxing activity, that's even further was able to lower it. So exercise is a habit that, whenever you guys do, just do something. It's going to help your blood vessels. There's no question about that. So that's number one. Number two is your food. So trying to eat anti-inflammatory, low antioxidants, that type of food. So, of course, we love our green leafy vegetables, and certain foods increase nitric oxide release. So eating things like beets, arugula, leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, those are going to actually help your endothelium produce more nitric oxide. And so it helps vasodilate it. So those types of food. You need omega-3, so good source of omega-3s, which can be things like flax or chia seeds, or if people eat healthy, clean fish, that type of thing is going to help because that's anti-inflammatory for your blood vessels. Colorful polyphenols, fruits and vegetables, as we talked about, and high fiber, and you want to balance your blood sugar. So whatever that looks like for each person, that's going to be beneficial. So that's the second habit, is working on, all of us could be working on a clean diet. And so after exercise and that, then I would go to the lifestyle factors. So getting quality sleep really will make a difference. And a lot of that is it resets your hormones or your cortisol, it helps reset your blood sugar. It just starts help balancing your body. That melatonin is an antioxidant for the whole body. So it's going to help reset things. So that's going to play a huge role. Quality sleep. And there's so much data that people who don't sleep well, or who have, just really interrupted sleep or sleep apnea, that it actually damages the blood vessels and increases risk of heart attacks and strokes. So if you're not sleeping well, no need to panic. I would do a workup for sleep reasons. And then there's a lot we can do to improve, but it's just each of us is different. So you just have to figure out why you're not sleeping. So, but sleep is a big one. And then stress management, I can't say enough about that. So when we're stressed out, our blood vessels are getting rigid and damaged in the long run, and we'll get higher blood pressure in the long run, even if we don't acutely have it. So doing things like deep breathing with long exhales, the cool water on our faces can help vagal tone to stimulate the vagus nerve. Yoga, tai chi, those types of things. Sauna can be very beneficial. Just make sure people are staying well hydrated with it. So that can help it actually shown to soften blood vessels and help reduce risk of heart disease, especially the endothelial part of it. So that's beneficial. So, these lifestyle factors that we talk about, the habits, connection, decreasing vagal or decreasing stress hormones, all of this is going to help our blood vessels. And then, of course, not smoking and not excessive alcohol and all those types of things.
Yeah, I literally have 5 pillars that I work on with patients, and then pretty much everything you're talking about is there's the lifestyle or style medicine ones, but I tend to get a little bit more specific around what kind of things. So blood sugar regulation's a big one, right? And you're talking
Mhm.
about the high fiber foods and these amazing micronutrients that come along with them. And so antioxidant like vitamin E, actually nuts and seeds too, right? Great sources there. Outside of even the vitamin C, there's glutathione in the body, different things like that can do it. But then also, nourishing movement one that feels good, but that you enjoy, that you can continue to do. Restorative sleep, so people aren't just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna take my Ambien or my medication," which actually gives you worse quality of sleep. You wake up groggy the next day, and so what are those things? And I would say the one thing too, really important, the easiest is just start your day with some kind of outside light. It's like, I know it's hard right now in the winter, but even those little happy lights help, but just getting light for 10 to 15 minutes, because that really starts the cascade. So I tell people the best sleep starts in the morning. And so that, and of course, caffeine and all those things, but community connection, like you mentioned before. And then, of course, we have the movement, the sleep, the blood sugar regulation, and then the stress regulation. So much, because stress hits the sleep, but sleep causes more stress. So what are the top, would you say top 1 thing or maybe 2 that you tell patients have the biggest impact? Like, what would be like, if they are like, "Doctor Miller, I just can only do 1 thing or 2 things, and it's gotta be small enough that I can do it today without overwhelm." What would be, like, 1 or 2 of those things?
I would say number 1 would be try to go to bed and wake up at the same time every night. Because even if you're not getting the best sleep, like some people just really struggle with sleep. And I know that because I work with a lot of patients who are struggling with their sleep. But if you are going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, that in itself has a lot of benefits. And so even though if your sleep is interrupted and you're still working on improving it, that's going to help. So that probably would be number 1.
Yeah.
And number 2, I would say is to I'll make it kind of a general thing, but I think if people don't stop stressing about it and just try to be okay, just be in more in the moment and be present and just be, this is what I'm working on, because sometimes we get obsessed with, I need this, I need to fix this, I need to fix this. So just kind of working towards your goals and being present in the moment. I would start with like things like that. And so, and then I would say to just test and see where you are because some people are going to need to really step it up. And we actually there's supplements or even medications to protect the endothelium for those who already have damage
Mhm.
before we have an event others are going to be perfectly clear and they don't have anything. And so I think it's actually really important that people kind of know where they are for that.
I think that's a really important point is you almost do an audit, right? So let's say that you're like, "Okay, I'm retiring," or my health, you had someone had a health scare, or someone's like, "I'm starting not to feel well," or whatever. You're coming out of the holidays going, "Oh, okay, it's a new year. I'm trying to get myself back together." Really just sitting down, one, and saying, "What are your goals?" Right? I think is like, where do I want to be able to do with this body that I've been given to live this life, right? So, what do I want to be able to do? Is it hike with your kids? Is it travel somewhere? Whatever that might be, or just to wake up without pain or less medication, whatever that is. And then, like you said, I think that audit with labs, certain metabolic labs, is very important. How do you interpret those? I have some articles as well that I can share with like what we need to be paying attention to. But then I think it's just the radical acceptance of where you are, right? So there's no beating yourself up. Stop the
Right.
shame, the shame train, and just understand, yes, you were dealt a genetic hand. Guess what? My real dad had his first heart attack at 38. My mom's dad died at 46. I have breast cancer, my mother and her grandmother. I mean, like, really? I've been given genetic lottery of luck, but I'm doing everything I can. And so far, I've beaten the odds, knock on wood, that because I'm doing the lifestyle things. But it doesn't mean that I don't accept the fact that these genetics are sitting
Mhm.
in my little, genome going, well, any day now I could sprout. Well, if they do, that is what it is. But at least I've done everything I can. So, really, just taking the audit, seeing where you are, and then understanding what is the next step that you can do today to get on a better thing. So, I think I'd mentioned before I've been contacted with literary agent and working on a book called Healing Habits, and just really helping people understand what does that look like in a very simplified form. What does the science say are the little habits you can start with that start compounding, and it's really fun to see those results. Some of my favorite stories is how my patient reversed type 2 diabetes by walking to the end of her driveway. So it's like literally she started there and then it just expands
Nice.
cycles up. So these are just some very simple things you can do. And then, you subscribe to Dr. Miller's newsletter, my newsletter, and you can see, we'll share that science with you. We'll share our own stories and patient stories and reader stories of how we can actually live where the science says and where, what is your own experience? Maybe you share with someone else what you're doing and you help someone else in these communities that we're building here. So such an important factor is like I do an audit and then you accept and then you make the decision for action. So, hey, I just came up with it. It's audit, acceptance, and action. Boom, you're done.
Yep.
And
No,
so the 3 A's, let's go.
it
Um,
is
I'm
because people
really
come
proud
from
of your article.
and we all want to do the same lifestyle factors and get the same results, but honestly, we don't. And so, but the
Yeah.
lifestyle is so important. I mean, we just can't underestimate the power of lifestyle. And so
Yeah.
it really is something that we all need to work on, and then we need to see if it's working and check in, and is this getting the results that I need, or does my body need more than this in addition? So that's what we gotta stay on.
I think it's a really important point, Chris, because an idea came to me when you were saying that is like really it's these lifestyle factors are so important. You know, I get questions around longevity and everything. I was like, before we even speak about, the high end longevity, fringe edge science, are you even doing the basics?
Mhm.
Right. So, as I really feel
Yeah.
like there's obviously edge cases of, someone is doing everything and then they benefit from something. But if you don't have the foundation, right, if you have that house built on sand, so to speak, no matter what you do, like the fancy roof tiles aren't going to do nothing for you if your foundation is not strong.
Mhm.
So I think that's a really important point that you said. Like these lifestyle factors are really
Mhm.
the most important tool in your toolkit.
Yeah, there was the other stuff is the lifestyle factors are the basis, and they get people
Yeah,
so far. And then, for a lot of people, that's enough, and for many people, they need a little bit more in addition to that, because we're now reversing something that's already happened, or, we gotta take it a little bit further,
yeah,
uh, initially, but without the lifestyle factors, we don't really it doesn't help very much, or, we really need to build that foundation. I agree with you completely, and that there's the most science about the lifestyle factors. There truly is real data and a good amount about those lifestyle factors, but
yeah,
just I always like to remind people it's so great to do that. We build our foundation. That's why we're here talking about the power of lifestyle, but we do
yeah.
need to make sure it's working for our bodies. Because I've done lifestyle for myself or some for certain patients, and not everyone gets the same results, like I'm saying. And so, you just need a little bit more to help with certain things.
That's really interesting because I think of you and I as two interesting two case studies, right? So you had lived your life, you were living crazy stress, loving it though, high energy, ER crash, right? And then you had to find your way out of that signal or that depth of really severe illness with lupus. I'm humming along, doing fine, doing all the lifestyle stuff, and then menopause hit me really hard. And so then you took the lifestyle approach and some other things, and I was like, I'm doing all those things and I still crash, which will happen on either side, right? There was, not a serious amount of stress. I was doing the exercise, but what happened for me was medicine. So that's where the next level was really critical for me was
Yeah.
applying the hormone therapy because
Mhm.
it made a huge difference in my quality of life because genetics to play again. My mom and my grandmother, the worst menopausal journey. I was thinking, my lifestyle will take care of it. No. So, if I live past 80, I will be thankful. So,
Right?
my
No,
grandparents and great-grandparents who did, and they live, in their 90s, but it makes me concerned. But, those are those things that we each had our own journey, but we all came back to the same thing is that these lifestyle
Mhm.
factors really were important because you
So
used them to get
yeah.
well. I used the other stuff to get better. So there's that really nice marriage of looking at both, but the foundational pieces had to be put in place. And then you found was that the foundational pieces had to be shifted a little bit, right? Just the generic advice and you had to take it even next step further where then the testing and really looking at yourself and applying the different sciences and you I mean, it's such an incredible thing that you did with your journey. It was just amazing.
Yeah, well, people handle things totally differently. So if I don't put out oxidative stress as well, and the slightest exposure is now going to cause me damage, and even though I'm doing my best to live this clean lifestyle, I will easily have oxidative stress in my body. So I might have to take extra supplements, extra nutrients, do extra
Yeah.
steps that other people don't have to do because I got this baseline high level oxidative stress. And so this is where certain people like me, I get into trouble easier than someone else will. And so I am aware of that now. And so I can
Yeah.
take steps to keep myself at this nice calm baseline.
So this is interesting, Chris. You and I entered our yeah, I don't know. Now we're just going to talk about life. So we entered, this is how our Chris and our conversations often go. We'll talk on one thing, and 4 hours later, we're talking about something completely different. Um, but what's interesting, I'm listening to this book called Flow, and it's really about how to live and work in a flow experience. So we've all been there. I hope that at least someone has experienced flow at some point in their life where you've done something. Maybe it's a creative art, or maybe it's your work, or maybe going on a walk or a hike, or listening to music, or maybe it's, going for a swim. Anyway, you get into this state where time just seems to stand still and hours pass. And before you know it, you're like, whoa, where did the time go? But you enjoyed that experience so much, the cost of the time did not matter, right? That was a something you would gladly pay to experience this really growth opportunity, the enjoyment, the flow, right? And he talks about in his book how to live a lifelong flow experience, even in really difficult situations. So I think it was really interesting as I think back on your journey, because we've known each other almost, I guess, 15 years now. Wow. And so we were so young when we started talking. And so like, oh my gosh. Um, and so I think about you and your journey and the amazing things that you had to overcome. And where would you say that when as you were kind of forced to relearn and do things like, and now you've come into this place where I think you're really enjoying where you're sitting, and how, if you wouldn't, it makes you wonder, do you ever reflect on, like, if you hadn't had lupus, where you might be and where that changes? And, like, I don't know, I just find it so fascinating because how I got to where I am, I'm loving writing on Love Stack. Oh, that's my new Substack stuff. Love Stack, come on over. So oh my gosh. Lovestack. Substack. There we go. And the education piece, and just understanding that for me, I can work on articles hours, or how can I build collaboration or the next project. And it's that creative element, but also the joy of seeing someone take the words and apply it to their life and actually improve their health, right? Just which is foundational for medicine. Where do you feel like your journey's really taking you? And how do you incorporate flow into your life? Like, where do you find that you're experiencing that?
Well, I will, I would say for me, I first of all, I loved emergency medicine. So that changed and I still miss that. So, that was my flow. I that my genetic makeup is so well suited for that lifestyle. So, I do miss that, to be 100% honest. But where I think I love the lifestyle pillars and I love living it. So I am meditating and doing my yoga. I'm out hiking and I'm not attached to any phone. I'm not on call. So I the lifestyle pillars have become me. Like that's how I'm living my life. And I have my work, which I love working with patients to help people get better. Like if they're sick, like I was, chronic illness, I really love helping people get over the hump. Or if they're not sleeping, like figuring it out and why are you not sleeping? Let's get you better. So I love that, but then when my work is done, I love being out playing, and so I'm connecting with people more. My sleep is finally improved to a place where it's good. So, for me, living the lifestyle and helping people get better is what puts me in flow, more than anything. So,
But I do want you to know, do you know which medical specialty has the highest mortality rate?
yeah, no, we know about emergency medicine. You're well aware. There's a lot of discussion on that. But for me in my career, I wasn't yet burnt out. I wasn't yet at that point. So,
Yeah.
still in the lifestyle. So I'm
I
well
was
aware.
I read somewhere there's an ER physician on Substack, forgive me if I can't remember his name, but he was mentioning that, and I looked up, was like the average age is like 58 to 60.
For when people leave the career.
Yeah. Well, or mean at age of death is what I read.
But they don't die at that young, but the longevity in the career is younger. So we say it's a young person's career. It's few people that actually continue at a longer age. So
Crazy, crazy. Yeah, no, pagers caused me so much stress, so the moment I could get rid of the pager. I was like, "Yes." Oh, you and I are made of a different fa
It's really great to help people overcome chronic illness.
Yeah.
It's a very satisfying field that we're in right now. And to use the lifestyle pillars, which are just so key with real science, the modern science of the looking at the labs and seeing where they are. And then what can that person do to get there, to get those results. And so it's very rewarding. So,
Yeah, I think honestly the most even more rewarding is beyond the factor of, let's say they never reverse, but if they can manage the disease and feel more alive and more healthy and able to do more things, like for me, it's like, how are you enjoying your life? So I think that's why I'm so attracted to these like flow books and different books where people can live a
mhm,
life of meaning and purpose.
mhm,
And so many times they get sidetracked by stress or an illness or,
mhm.
the events of the world and they just get sucked in and pulled in. It's like, well, how can we learn to radically accept this thing, right? Like, this is where we are. This is the acceptance. And now what is the action? If you want to take an action, so be it. If you don't, then accept that too. So how much more
Really
peaceful?
see ourselves, like, what's happened that with social media or all these things online is you see what other people are doing, and you think, "Well, I wanna be like that." At least I used to do that a lot,
Yeah.
and that I have dropped. Like, "I'm never gonna be like you. I'm never gonna live your life, so I'm gonna be me and live my
Wonderful.
life." And once you accept that and you go your own direction, I feel like
Yeah.
that has brought so much it just makes everything so much easier. I'm better at being me than trying to be someone else.
Well, you are the best you. Absolutely. I wouldn't want anyone else.
You are the best you of anyone out there. That's true for everyone. That's
Absolutely,
so
100%. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. I mean, we kind of went to a philosophical little discussion there at the end, but it's such an important piece to understand. But thank you, Chris, for sharing with us and really just, you know, you guys go out and think about what is your blood vessel health. Like, what are we doing? Take some inventory of where you're sitting and what kind of symptoms you have, and start thinking about what are some of those little habits that you can do today to just start moving in the right direction because they do add up really quickly. Kind of
Mhm.
like I'll end real quick with the penny that doubles every day for 30 days, you end up with over $5.4 million, right? So I wish I had that high interest kind of that I
No,
do.
it comes, you're right. So if we the more things you stack onto yourself to be healthy, these things add up. They really do, and they make a huge difference. So, mhm,
Absolutely. Some really cool study I have on cognitive health, which brings us real quick. I forgot to mention our brain health mini Substack summit coming up at the end of the month. And Dr. Chris is one of our amazing interviews that we're going to talk about brain and inflammation. And of course, blood vessel health goes right along with that. And so I'm excited to hear what you have to say about the brain and inflammation. Such an important piece.
mhm. It really is, and there's a lot we can do about it. So, if we think about it, neuroinflammation in our glia cells, our cells that are in the brain, and what we can do to clear it and improve it, and halt it, and it can make a huge difference in how our brain ages. So, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it's gonna be really, really good, but we'll be back next Friday with Dr. Chris. We've moved from Mondays because I have some patient stuff I have to take care of on Mondays that was getting a little bit crazy for me. So there's that, and thanks, Chris, for joining us again today. Appreciate you as so much as usual.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Alright.
Great to see you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day and good weekend. Okay, bye.